What's up, everybody? Episode 84 of the Patio Slave podcast. Hope you had a good time checking out the 2 doses of our Kanye countdown with Spose last couple weeks. We appreciate you coming back for that. We're back at it with another week. What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm doing swell.
As Nate says, best night of the week.
Best night of the week. Ready to nerd out.
Yeah. I feel like we just did this too, but I mean, hey, why not do it again, right? Oh wait, yeah, we 84 of these now. So, and we have a special guest with us tonight. Brian Colburn of Playlist Wars is here to do, a riff off what they do. So, Brian, first off, introduce yourself. Tell us about your podcast. Let's get that stuff going.
Well, first, gentlemen, thank you guys so much for bringing me on. I'm really excited about this. So, thank you, and thank you. And I am Brian. I am one half of Playlist Wars. We are an audio commentary podcast, which basically we pick a band, artist, or topic. And me, my best friend of, we get the year wrong all the time, sometime in the 90s. So nice. 25, 30 years, it all kind of is gray right now anyway. Gomez, him and I, along with a special guest, each create a 10-song playlist based on that band, artist, or topic. And then we have a roundtable discussion and kind of map out our playlists track by track. And after that's done, we turn it over to anyone who listens, who we lovingly call the playlisters, to vote for which one of the three of us, quote unquote, got it right. And then every 10 episodes, we do a results episode and we reveal who gets bragging rights for that artist, band, or topic.
Nice. Yes. And I've listened to many. So go check out the Playlist Wars, guys. They do an awesome job. And I'm excited, I think, here in the fairly near future, at some point, we'll get one of us in there with you guys to do one.
Oh, I think it's a definite. We just need to nail down a day. I mean, it's one of those things where there are certain podcasts that we listen to and we're like, oh, we got to totally make this happen. And then life gets in the way, as you all know, with work and kids and bouncing around. I've personally got 4 sports between 2 girls that we're juggling right now.
Ooh, wow.
So I don't know if I'm coming in. Like I said to my wife each day, I'm like, just give me a time when and where I need to be and where they need to be. And I'll figure out the rest of it as we go along.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So look for that in the future, the Patio Slave and Playlist Wars, a topic to be determined here.
Definitely. Although the one we're doing tonight might make for a killer crossover when you guys come on. So
you know what? That's not a bad idea. So, hey, yeah, Nate, what are we doing tonight? What's our topic?
Oh, man, this is one that I thought would be super easy for me, but it's our top 5 favorite concerts of all time individually. So this is going to be quite the nerd session.
Can we call it Concert Wars, or is that copyright?
Yeah.
Copywritten.
I'll allow it.
All right, nice. So yeah, we're all we'll do similar to what you guys do over at Playlist Wars. We'll kind of each take a turn, give a concert, counting down from 5 to 1, and kind of we'll talk about it a little bit. I'm hoping we'll have some artist, interaction that we've all. I was talking with you guys before. Nate and I have been to 4 of my top 5 together. So there'll be, I'm guessing he's got one of them. And then I think, Brian, you and I might have a similar artist, but we'll see. I'm excited about it. And let's get into it. Brian, let's do an honorable mention. Let's toss one of those out there. One that maybe didn't quite make the cut to start. Maybe number 6 there on the cutting room floor. What'd you have?
Well, my honorable mention is actually my favorite artist of all time. And the fact that it didn't make my top 5 actually made my wife look at me and go, really? And this would have to be July 14th, 2002, Hershey Stadium in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and the Brian Setzer Trio.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you know Brian Setzer and you know the bands he's in, it was basically the Stray Cats under the Brian Setzer Trio name. Nice. So it was the Stray Cats and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And just from beginning to end, not a single bad song played. There was no chance for a bathroom break. You were not getting out of your seat. It was just sing along after sing along after sing along. And that was one of the first concerts my wife and I went to together. Although the night before we went to go see, I think it was Poison, Cinderella, Faster Pussycat, and Winger. And she married me anyway. So, I mean,
I think we've all said that. We've all said that on this podcast. They married us anyway.
When my wife when we first started dating, she thinks that the concerts I took her to were specifically to test the waters, because everything from the Insane Clown Posse and Two Live Crew to Rusted Root to Lamb of God, like she looks at me, she's like, what am I dating?
Who are you?
I know I did that with my wife Jess. Took her to Thrice's farewell show, which they're back together obviously now, but Thrice's farewell show. I've taken her to Atmosphere. I've taken her to all kinds of stuff, and she's like, "Can we go see Guster?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, we'll go see Guster too." That works.
Hey, you want to go see Terror? Who?
Yeah, right.
Well, you're coming. You have a ticket.
Napalm Death, go for it.
Yeah.
Date night.
Yeah, right.
But you got to throw them a bone too every now and then, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have Tom Petty on my list, and that was the artist that I thought we'd have in common. It's up at number 3 for me. I'll talk about that show. It's a couple years later. Nate and I went. I think we've talked about it. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, and a certain Tombstone Pizza machine may come up. All right, Nate, what's your honorable mention? Give us an honorable mention.
I'm looking at a sea of ticket stubs, but I have one in particular that just didn't make the cut. I mean, it really should, but it's them Crooked Vultures at the Fillmore in Denver. They did like 2 tours total. So yeah, this show, I actually was in the top 5 and I had to swap it out because everything's so on the brink. Honorable mention, amazing show, 3 legends on stage, Josh Homme, Dave Grohl, and John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. So to cut that, yeah, it's not an easy one, but honorable mention, one of the best shows I've ever seen in person.
All right, nice. I'll jump in. I think my theme with this whole episode is, well, if you've listened to us, you know I have an Excel spreadsheet of every show I've ever been to. Whether or not there's ticket stubs, I get those cataloged. It's got date, bands, location, venue. At some point, I'm going to do nerd notes. I'm going to try to remember as much as I can and just layer it in. So I bring that up to say this was near impossible. If you ask me tomorrow, it's going to be different. But for this honorable mention, it's a show at the Palladium downstairs, Worcester, Mass. Last show for the band Bane. Title Fight opened, Saves the Day opened. It was just a lot of, and it was probably like 6 other bands up to that point. They'd been a band for like 20 years. So bands from each era, including like, Saves the Day, more of a pop punk band. And then you have Title Fight and Cruel Hand from Maine played. It was awesome. I love that venue, love that band. Just a great send-off, and they made a DVD, which has a lot of the footage of that last show. And hard to believe it was 5 years ago. But, yeah, Palladium will come up again. I'm teasing that.
Nice.
Oh, man, extra to boot, too, with the DVD. That's like when you get some really good, vivid memories because it's on video. It's awesome, man.
Totally.
I got to say that concert Excel sheet, that's a vibe right there that I'm going to have to start picking my brain and putting that together, man. I have in my phone, I collect CDs. You've probably heard me mention this 10,000 times on our show. And I've repurchased so many CDs over the years that I actually created an app called, or I didn't create the app, but I use an app called Tap Forms. And it's basically an Excel sheet on your phone, but you could use it as a searchable database. And I have every CD that I own along with the UPC code. So if I'm in a record store, I could just scan the disc and see if I own it already so I don't buy it a second time.
Yep.
Amazing.
I do that with vinyl on Discogs all the time. I'm like, oh shit, do I already own this? I think I already own this. Let's find out because I don't want to buy it again.
You're just outsourcing your brain at that point. It's like I have a good memory, but not that good of a memory.
Yep.
I can't remember. I have 3,800 and counting CDs. So I can't remember if I own a specific album by a band that, I haven't listened to in 20 years. And it's one of those things where maybe I bought it 10 years ago. Maybe I didn't. At least now I know.
Yep. Have you listened to all 3,800 of them?
No, but that's what retirement's for, I figure, at some point.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, I have ripped all 3,800 of them. So I do constantly, when I'm in the car, have it on random, kind of just playing. So maybe songs from all 3,800 for sure, but not all the way through. But I think the day I retire, I'll start with, I guess, AC/DC's first album and then go all the way to ZZ Top and just hopefully I make it till the last song on ZZ Top's last album, you know?
Are they
Hell yeah.
still in jewel cases, or you have them in the binders?
No, I stopped doing the binders, but what I actually do is I have them because we live in a townhouse. So if I had them in jewel cases out on a wall, the house would collapse.
Yep.
So I've kept all the jewel cases and everything for a time when we actually have a larger home that I can have my room, which would be basically a pool table, and then the walls with all the CDs on it. But for now, I have all these plastic sleeves that I put the booklet and the CD in.
Oh,
Nice.
perfect.
So, and then I have them in bins in a armoire in our living room, so I could just pull the bin out, grab a disc, and throw it in the CD player or take it in the car with me.
Nice.
Oh, that's
Nice.
rad.
That's what we call nerdy. I mean, that's the stuff that when I was in high school, I put it all in a Word document, every CD I owned. And I think at one point I was up to like 1,500, and then I sold them all back to our local record store. I have them all ripped, so I still have all the music, but I probably have somewhere in the vicinity of 2,200 to 2,300 different, full CDs or full, MP3s, I guess, at this point. So I can definitely relate. I just don't have them taking up space anymore, which part of me is mad at myself for that. And part of me is like, they needed to go. I don't have anywhere to put them.
Well, you
Yeah.
see, I at one point sold a bunch of them off, and then pre the cloud, I had a hard drive die.
Ooh.
And after that moment of, oh my God, I just lost hundreds of MP3s and all my albums, then it was like, okay, I'm never doing that again. And then I went lossless. So I was like, at that point, at least I have a good copy. Now I've got it backed up to like an external. I got it backed up to the cloud.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably have more copies of hard drives than I do of CDs, but just to be safe, you can't, you don't want to ever have to go through that again.
No, man, that's a nightmare. All right, so that was our first tangent. That didn't take long. We haven't even gotten to my my honorable mention yet. My honorable mention: Zach Brown Band in Bangor in June 2nd, 2012. Went up with my wife, my future wife at the time, my sister-in-law, my brother, and my dad. And it was pouring all throughout the state of Maine. But it was not raining in Bangor. It was early June, so it can be kind of chilly still, and it was pretty chilly, but it was the only spot in the state that wasn't raining. And we got to see Zach Brown outside, a couple of block walk from the casino in Bangor, and my wife and I both hit about $250 on slot machines right before we went down to the show.
Hell yeah.
So drinks were on me that night. Everybody was having a really good time, and we get to see Zach Brown Band outside in an awesome venue. Which we've been to a couple times. I think the three of us, Nate and Anthony, it was a blast. And the fact that it was the only spot in the state that wasn't raining. I mean, I remember riding home with my dad. It was absolutely downpouring. I was like, how did we stay dry in Bangor at the show for 3 hours? This doesn't make any sense. But it was just a good night. It was just one of those things that you'll never forget.
Yeah, they're a hell of a band, man. I'm so glad that they're putting out an album that goes back to those country roots again. The last one they did, The Owl, was... Man, I have no problem with them experimenting and doing pop stuff, but call it something else, because I expect a little bit of that country Southern rock thing from my Zach Brown Band albums. And I was pretty disappointed with The Owl, but everything I've heard from the comeback so far, I'm like, all right, I dig where this is going. I've seen them in concert. I actually saw them in Guilford, New Hampshire at Meadowbrook.
Nice.
Nice.
Probably. And Chris Daughtry actually came up on stage and guested with them for free, which was absolutely insane. That guy's got such a killer voice, and they're an incredible group, and they didn't even make my honorable mentions, and I feel guilty about that already. So
I saw them at Meadowbrook too. No Daughtry, I don't think. It was 4.5 years ago, over Memorial Day weekend, and we we camped in the parking lot. So that was needless to say, it was a pretty rowdy time, but they were awesome. I mean, they just put on a great show.
yeah, start to finish. Again, another band you don't leave your seat for.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got through our honorable mentions. Let's start with the countdown. Brian, what do you got at number 5?
All right, at number 5, this is actually a one-off concert. The reason it made my top 5 is because in one night, I got to check off a bucket list of artists that I love. And this concert took place on October 3rd, 2012 at the Izod Center in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The concert was called Love for Levon. It was a benefit for Levon Helm after he passed. And on the bill was Roger Waters, Garth Hudson, My Morning Jacket, John Mayer, Joe Walsh, Dierks Bentley, Eric Church, Greg Allman, Bruce Hornsby, John Hyatt, Grace Potter, Warren Haynes, Lucinda Williams, Mavis Staples, Robert Randolph, John Prine, Jacob Dylan, Mike Gordon, and Joan Osborne. That's just some of the bill.
Wow.
Was it 5 days?
No, it was a 3-hour concert, and they all came up and did different songs from Levon Helm and the band.
Wow.
And I got to see like Joe Walsh and Robert Randolph just throwing down in a guitar duel. And the reason I picked it is I went with my father. We always talk about those, concert memories that you have. And Grace Potter came out and she did a chilled out version of I Shall Be Released. And you can get this on Blu-ray and CD. It's on YouTube. You could watch the whole concert. Her version of I Shall Be Released was just her on organ, Don Was on drums, and a bass player. And at the end of it, I'm actually getting goosebumps.
Nice.
Literally on my arm talking about it. She hit this high note where the entire crowd just went silent, 20,000 people in the Izod Center. And when she sang the last note, she started crying. And the applause just swelled from like clapping to this roar. My father turned to me and he said, I've seen Jimi Hendrix live. I've never seen anything like that.
Amazing.
Wow. And it was just one of those moments where like you could not be moved by it. Every time I watched that performance, I well up. And it was just such a wonderful evening. And being able to just go check off the list of, Roger Waters, Pink Floyd, Joe Walsh, just checking them off the bucket list. I couldn't not include that one. So that is my number 5.
That is a hell of a bill. And it makes me jealous because of where we live. I mean, Nate being in San Diego gets a little more of that than we do here in Maine. That's the downside of living in Maine and not being in the big cities. We don't get stuff like that. When they put together those big shows and those one-offs, it's like Portland, Maine's not going to see that. So no. You got to travel. But hey, man, I've got goosebumps just listening, thinking about that story. I can't imagine what it was like being there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, if I would highly, highly, highly suggest if you like the band at all, and I just grab the Blu-ray of it or the DVD, it is such a fun watch. There are so many different jam sessions that happen over the course of 3 hours, and then at the end of the night, every musician I mentioned is up on stage jamming the weight together.
Yep.
So wow. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing of music, classic rock personified.
I just can't believe that many people played in just 3 hours. That seems like it would be like a 6-8 hour marathon concert, but
there was not even a break. It was just, they took a 10-minute intermission at one point, which was kind of worthless because people didn't get out of their seats. They just wanted more.
Yeah, too short.
Yeah.
In that this is kind of a downer comment, but a lot of those folks are getting older. So ain't going to happen much longer. And like John Prine, I think you said, I mean, he's no longer with us.
Passed, yep.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, the only time we're seeing that is on YouTube up here in Maine.
Yeah.
Or the DVD,
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, I'll say this. I've got Maine love in my list. So you guys are
nice.
I got some Maine love for you on my top 5 here. So
nice.
We'll take it.
That's amazing.
We'll take it.
Sweet.
All right. Who wants to give one of you guys?
All right. I'll jump in because Nate's being shy. I'll tease this a little bit. December 28th. So a few days after Christmas, years 2006, the venue, Worcester Palladium. Nerd fact, I bought the ticket at Strawberries. Do you guys remember Strawberries?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they had the big, long, not horizontal, I guess those were just rectangular tickets, and they had the old school printer. And I know half the tickets I have from there, you can barely read who it was for. So I had to another nerd fact, I put Post-it notes on the back of those and wrote out the details in case I lost the details.
I love that.
I love it. I like the way you think, man.
Yeah, I think I got a problem.
We all do. It's
a good problem to have. Some people have other problems that are not as good as this one. This is
a healthy
one's
problem.
Good for your soul. Yeah.
So if you know me, you listen to the podcast, this should be no surprise. This was like a weekend run of Long Island, New York bands. So This Is Hell opened, Crime in Stereo was second, and then Glassjaw headlined. So this was 2006. This was after, 3 years after Worship and Tribute. Everything from 2000 was already out, but Material Control hadn't come out yet. So you have playlist or set list from just their 2 banger albums, and it was just a vibe. And I think that's a theme with all the shows I picked, that it's hard to put it beyond the fact that it was just an out-of-body experience, and just you had to be there. It was like, we talked about it last week, it's like almost like a spiritual vibe. And Daryl's just a hell of a frontman, and the crowd was louder than the band. It was one of those times where I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't want this to end like this. And it's pre-smartphone, so everyone is dialed in. And
oh, nice.
With 2 albums worth of content, everyone truly did know every song, and they're screaming. And also where I was in the venue was great. I was right in the middle, and if you've been to the Palladium, it kind of tiers up, almost like stair steps, and I was at the first tier, right at the bar there, and not the drinking bar, but like the bar to separate me from the riffraff, and it was amazing. Like I felt like I was the conductor of the whole show. So yeah, I could go on and on. We'll keep this short and sweet. Glassjaw Palladium 2006.
I got a little nerd question for you, Twan. Just because the Palladium in Worcester is a little notorious for sound, there's either really good nights or really off nights. So I think the really good nights is when they bring their own sound guy. So they must have had their own crew with them.
Honestly, didn't even need it. The crowd was like, sing by number. It was like the crowd was so fucking loud. It was amazing. Wow. I didn't notice. If the sound sucked, I didn't notice.
Nate, have you seen them?
Glassjaw?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think twice.
Nice.
But not on that tour. And both times we're out here. So
yeah, I've never seen them, and it's a huge bummer.
I haven't
for me.
either. Yeah, same here.
I'd love to see that band. It just hasn't happened yet. Hopefully someday. All right. I'm gonna go next. 2005, March 28th, at the Roxy in Boston. I don't know if it's still called the Roxy. I can't remember. Royale, maybe, I think is what they changed the name to. Yeah. I've been to a bunch of shows there. I've seen Atmosphere there. I've seen Thrice there. Nate and I saw Queens of the Stone Age there on tour for Lullabies to Paralyze, I believe. And Nate had been trying to get me into Queens of the Stone Age for a couple of years at this point, and I was resisting. I liked songs that I'd heard, was just not at that time in my life. I was not into it. And then I went and saw them live, and I was like 3 songs in, jaw on the floor, like, okay, these guys just kick ass. Like, what's wrong with me? Where have I been? Josh Homme is such a dynamic frontman. They were touring, with Lanigan still, playing a bunch of just amazing Queens of the Stone Age songs at that point, on tour for Lullabies to Paralyze. And then you've got Songs for the Deaf just before that, which is an all-time record for me. And man, it was the reason that I got into the band. I finally was like, yep, I'll go check out the show with you. I love going to concerts. And we sat in the hotel bar next door to the Royale with the rep, and I forget his name. We were down there with our buddy Rob, who obviously works for the radio, and got us tickets.
Rodney.
And yeah, Rodney. Yes, yeah, Rodney from Interscope. And I think we were only 20 at the time, and they were just serving. They were like, "Yeah, we're not checking anybody's IDs. Have a couple beers, guys. Enjoy yourselves." So that might have helped. Who knows? But man, and I think Nate, you had gone to CD Spins, which was just a used CD shop in Boston back in the day, and bought Self-Titled on CD and had the bartender play it the entire time we were in there. And we had to be in there for like an hour and a half. It went through at least 1.5 times before we went to the show. So we were just rocking Queens of the Stone Age all night. Blast of a show. Got me into the band, and they're one of my favorite bands now. So thanks for talking me into it, Nate.
They're on my list of bands I have to go see. Like I've never heard one person. I've never heard one person say, "Man, they're not good live." So the fact that Nate, you've seen them Crooked Vultures as well. I mean, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I was a big fan. I feel like I got into them late too, which is the weird thing, because 2004, they kind of popped off in 2002 with Songs for the Deaf. So
was it Rated R came out around 2000?
Yeah,
I remember that got countless spins in New York radio at the time. So I knew them from Rated R on, and I just they're just one of those bands that I knew when I heard in 2004, when we heard No One Knows on the radio. I'm like, oh, these guys are going to be massive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was, dude, that was in my top 5. I had to take it out because there's just so many good shows, but that was an amazing show. They would just come off Dave Grohl had just left to go back to the Foo Fighters. So like they brought in Troy, or no, they brought in, what's his name? Joey Castillo.
Yeah. Yep.
On drums, and he's a killer drummer. And they were just tight. I mean, that whole band was tight. That show was so flawless. Man, great pick, man. It was hard for me to get rid of that one, but I'm happy that you picked it up.
Yeah, I got you.
Man, I have actually talked about this show, my top, my fifth one. I didn't say what order it was in previous to this episode, but I have talked about this gig, and it went in and out of my top 5 a few times, but I had to bring it back in because it's just, it could be a number 1 show of all time because it's just so killer. So similar to you, Brian, this was one of those like check, multiple boxes off the bucket list type thing, just because they just happened to show up. This was January 10th, 2015, the Foo Fighters at the Forum in Inglewood in LA for Dave Grohl's birthday party. He kind of threw like his own birthday party. Yeah.
I read about that show.
Of course, Nate was there.
I was amazed. And the thing is, I tried to get tickets when they went on sale, was locked out, bummed. And I was like looking at the secondary market, this isn't going to happen. And then the radio station was giving them away. And I actually called in and won, which I don't know if you guys have done that, but it's extremely hard. Like the chances are stacked up against you to even get through, let alone win, So I got chosen. I just like lost my shit. I was like, I can't believe I fucking won. Like I was determined to get to the show, and I actually won the ticket somehow. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm talking Detroit Rock City with Paul Stanley. Do You Love Me with Paul Stanley. And obviously they played Foo Fighter songs all my life. Rope, Pretender. Who else did they have? Man, Jack Black, Slash, Alice Cooper, Nick Oliveri from Queens of the Stone Age, actually. Zach Wilde, Perry Farrell, Trombone Shorty. David Lee Roth was up there just going crazy as usual. And then Lemmy, before he passed away, closed with Let It Rock, a Chuck Berry cover. And I was with my wife, I won the pair of tickets, and we went, and we were just like, Foo Fighters is great. This is going to be a great show. The band puts on fantastic shows. We had no fucking idea that we were going to get all these random people coming out because it was his birthday. He literally was on stage saying, yeah, I just called all my bar friends.
Nice.
And it's always cool when one person shows up at a concert and is like, oh, we got a special guest. Like one time I went to go see Life of Agony back when Whitfield Crane from Ugly Kid Joe was the singer at the time.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, we're going to bring up a friend and do a couple of Sabbath songs for you. And Scott Ian from Anthrax comes out.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
And they break in the Symptoms of the Universe. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. Yeah. So that was one moment in a concert. You had just moment after moment after moment. That's awesome.
They just kept coming out. Like no one could really believe it. And it was just, I feel like no one knew except for the band and like their staff, but even like the venue staff was like, whoa, like, holy shit, that's Paul Stanley. So everyone was surprised. It was something to see. And it was his 46th birthday. So it wasn't even like a big 50 or anything like that. It was just like, I feel like having a birthday party. So I'm going to fucking throw a birthday party concert for myself, but in very Grohl fashion. He's a nerd. I think we can all agree that he's like a nerd as a musician because he's always doing something cool. So music related.
You mentioned Nick Oliveri. I saw Nick Oliveri last night in Portland, Maine.
Oh yeah, nice.
His band Stoner opened for Clutch.
Great name, by the way. Love that.
Oh, it's a great name. Yeah, and I mean they lived up to the billing. It was Stoner rock to a T. It was enjoyable, and Clutch still kicks ass. So, as you guys were, I just wanted to bring that up. I saw Clutch last night, and they were fucking awesome.
That's gone full nerd circle. Makes sense.
All right, we up to 4. We've all done our 5s, right?
Yeah.
Brian, number 4. What do you got?
All right, this is at the State Theater in Portland, Maine.
Ooh, our home, man. I love that place.
June 11th, 2005. This is the longest my wife and I ever drove for a concert. Drove from New Jersey up there for the weekend and then drove home the next day. I do listen to all different types of music. So my list is really going to make you guys raise your eyebrow because there's just no rhyme or reason to my bands. And this is definitely one of them. This group is from upstate New York, and they're a very popular jam band, and they're called Mo.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure if okay, awesome. On June 11th and June 10th and 11th, we couldn't go both nights because of work problems, but they recorded songs that they would actually mix into an album of theirs, which would be known as the Conch. And they took stuff from the live concert, and they basically had every member of the band on stage in their own kind of like plexiglass space with all the amps. So everything was mic'd up to actually do a studio recording in front of an audience. And then they worked it into what would become the studio album. On top of that, they also did a bunch of their hits and did a live album that came out with a pre-order called High in Congress. And all the songs from that EP were from the night we went. The thing that was most memorable about the concert, though, 5 minutes into the second song, someone pulled the fire alarm.
Ooh.
And they emptied the audience out of the venue onto whatever street that is. My car was actually parked in one of those. We got like the primo spot right by the door of the State Theater. And people were freaking out in the street thinking the concert was not going to happen. They weren't going to let it. People were trying to climb on top of my car to see what was going on.
Oh, no.
So my wife and I had to grab the car, drive a few blocks away, park somewhere else, and go back. And they did let everybody back in, and it was an amazing show. The only other thing I want to say about the night is beforehand, I don't know if you guys probably know this place, and it's probably common to you, but to my wife and I, this was just a very memorable evening because the percussionist from Mo, Jim Laughlin, was playing with a guy named Mike Rockland at the Ale House.
Yep. Yo, the Ale House.
Yeah.
And it was a bar, but they had swings.
Yeah,
so my
swings.
wife and I are
Yep.
sitting there just drinking and swinging. We're going, this is not going to end well. But it was so much fun. And I'll never forget that place. It was a fun night. It was literally, we drove up Saturday morning, went to this bar, went to the concert, drove back Sunday morning, 14 hours in a car. But every time I put the album on, I know a lot of the stuff that they did from that album was from the concert. So that's how it made my number 4.
That's amazing.
If you had the swings at the ale house in Brian's list, drink.
Yeah, right. I love the pandering. Will get you everywhere too. That's we fucking love the Ale House. We lived there in our early 20s before they closed. Sadly it's closed.
That's what I was just going to ask you guys. Is it still there? Because next time I'm up visiting my wife's family, I'm going to have to. I was going to hope to get back out there again. But
I think it's the kitchen for Pat's Pizza now, right? It's the downstairs of Pat's Pizza.
It's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still. I mean, Portland's got plenty of awesome hole in the wall spots like that, but that spot was special. Our buddy's band. Growing up, a high school buddy of ours played in a band with a couple other kids, and they played there a ton when we were like 20, 21, 22. And we lived there. I mean, they play Monday nights, they play Friday nights, they play Saturday nights, and we just hanging out, drinking PBRs, sitting on swings, watching your friends play. And they do Metal Mondays a lot too. Back in the day, and you could there's a decent metal scene in Portland at the time, and cool spot. I'm glad that you I think we had interaction with about that on Twitter, and I was like, he's been to the Ale House. The Ale House is fucking cool. Like that's I miss that place.
I mean, the only bright side is at least it's not like a Spirit Halloween or something now.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait till October. It is October. Wait till next year.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny, Brian? When you were talking, I was like, I think I was at this show. And I was like, I don't know. I've seen Mo a few times at the State. Maybe it was a different tour or something. And you said the fire alarm, and I was at that show. And
me?
No, I was there, and I was walking.
My car. No,
I didn't. Well, here's the funny thing: is I wasn't even planning on going to the show, but I was living in Portland, and I walked by the venue, and someone handed me tickets, and I was like, I actually didn't know who Mo was.
Which happens all the time, right? I mean,
happens. Yeah. I guess I just put it out there or whatever. But anyways, I walked by. This guy's like, "Do you want to go to the show?" I'm like, I was heading back to my apartment. I'm like, sure. I would never pass up a free show. So I walked in, watched like 3 songs or whatever, and I was really tired. So I was almost kind of like dozing off because I just finished work, and they were jamming for a while. And then the fire alarm went on, and I woke up in like a panic. So I remember that show vividly because of the fire alarm. And I have the ticket stub, and I also have a State Theater like voucher from that show with the date, and it says Mo on it. Like, come back. Nice. The show's still on. Like you said, the show's still on. Here's your voucher. So you can get back in. You can't rescan your ticket stub. So it was almost like proof that you were in, proof of purchase kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just saw it. Like I was just going through my stubs, and I just like had that in my hand. So that's insane.
Small world, right?
Yeah, we call that nerdvoyance.
Nerdvoyance. Yep.
Really cool that you were at a show that they took music from to make an album. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. It's like you were in on the studio session, but the studio session was a live concert.
Yeah, and I've never seen any other show like that in my life. And was it memorably the greatest concert ever? No, but the fact that the story behind it is something I tell all the time. It had to make the list because it was just such a different experience. And I think that's where my list kind of goes with my top 5 concerts. They're not necessarily my 5 favorite bands, but they're my 5 favorite experiences at a concert.
Totally.
If that makes a little more.
Totally with you.
Completely agree.
And that'll come up, I think, with probably the rest of mine, or at least a few of mine left. Yep.
Speaking of which, Tuan, go ahead and give us one.
Yeah.
I'll make this kind of short and sweet. I know you guys know the band. Nate, actually, you might have come with me to see them back in the day. But the band is Have Heart, straight edge hardcore band from Massachusetts. This was their last show back in October 18th, 2009. It was Edge Day. Bane, who I mentioned as a honorable mention, opened Foundation, Tone's favorite, and Cruel Hand, shout out to a main band. But they played Club Lido in Revere, Mass. If you've ever been to Revere, you probably want to stay away from that place. But they played Club Lido, which was like a dance club that just converted to a show, show venue. It was like, the opposite ends of the spectrum. You get this club venue, one night, and then you get a straight edge hardcore band the next night. But it was their last show. I'd seen them probably 15 times leading up to this, and I think at that point in time it was a special send off. And like most bands' last show, it's never their last show. I actually saw them 2 years ago, a reunion show, but man, just a special night. And I want to say I think they recorded it. They recorded that, and Bridge 9 put out a pressing of it, but Pat, the front man, went on to front Fiddlehead. So that might resonate more with some of our listeners. But Have Heart, last show, Edge Day 2009. I would pay $2,000 to go back and relive that night.
Wow.
Special night.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always cool when you get to go to like a farewell type show, even if they're going to get back together, because the energy in the room is different, right?
Yep.
Everybody's like, oh man, this might be the last time these guys do this, or these gals do this. I want to be here. I want to soak this entire evening in. And it sounds like that's what you had. Even if maybe they came back and you saw a reunion show a couple years ago, it's not the same. Like when you think you're at the end of the road, that the energy in the room is definitely different.
Yeah.
People said that in 1997 when Kiss did the their final tour back then.
Yeah. And are they going out again right now? I think they're going right now.
Yeah. Supposedly they're ending next year at some point, but who knows?
It's like the Stones every year. This is it. This is it.
Yeah.
I saw a great meme about Keith Richards. It's Keith Richards talking to like a 3-year-old, and it says, "Here's Keith Richards teaching Willie Nelson how to play guitar."
Yep. Amazing.
Wow.
All right, Nate, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I got one. This one is one that got swapped out because it was, as soon as I pulled it out, I'm like, ooh, this one deserves a top 5 spot. It was on April 30th, 2005, Audio Slave at the Roseland Ballroom, Brian. So you probably know that one in New York City. And
you're going to hear that name later on in this episode.
Oh, nice.
I promise you.
It's such a good venue, such a good room to see a band, and like heart of the city. And I mean, Chris Cornell was always my favorite singer of all time. So to see him in a club kind of setting with one of my other favorite bands, Rage Against the Machine, is like a rhythm section. He was in peak form. I mean, 2005, his voice was still great, and he was fit. He was sober, I think. Everything about the show was amazing. They played Rage songs, they played Audio Slave songs, they played Soundgarden songs. He was into it. I relived that night quite often because it was like, holy shit, I'm finally seeing my favorite singer, and he's like literally like 2 feet away from me because we went all the way to the front. I actually went with Rob.
Nice.
Radio DJ, and we were just both like floored. Like, this is insane. This guy's singing like it's 1998, like, or 96 in his heyday. Like, his voice was perfect. The band killed it. They were all getting along, and it's almost like this weird hazy. It's like it's vivid, but it's also hazy because it didn't seem real,
Yeah, almost like a dream.
I gotta say that's 4. It seemed like a dream. Yeah, it seemed like a dream, especially seeing it in like a venue like Avalon, where it's like you hear about these, you see like those old, rock posters from the 70s, and they're always at like Roseland and just those legendary venues. So when I was living in New York City, I was like, I got to check out all these venues, and to see shows that are legendary for me in those legendary venues is like, I think I've said it before, nerdery squared, right? It's like, this is so much nerdery. It's insanity. Yeah. So
spoiler alert, my top 2 were both at the Roseland Ballroom.
Nice.
It was one of those venues where the sound was always perfect, no matter where you were in the room.
Yeah.
it just had a vibe and an ambiance to the room that just made it feel more special. And probably if they turned all the lights on, it was probably, a disgusting whatever pit, but it doesn't matter. There was something about the place that just was perfect for live music. And I was devastated when the place closed down, but
Oh, I know. I can't believe they closed it down. I feel like that's like a historic landmark, but
I feel like it is. And I'm still pissed about it. We saw Incubus and the Deftones there back in the late 90s. And one of my friends, literally, she remembers that concert as the fact that there was such a surge to the front of the room that she was levitating. And she said to me, Brian, you need to grab me and get me down and out of here. And I grabbed, because at the time I was still playing football. I was about 100 pounds heavier than I am now. And I just grabbed her by the back of her shirt and my buddy by the arm and just went like this and just started shoving back against the surge and got us all the way to the back. I had never seen anything like it except for one of my other mentions that I'll talk about later. But awesome room, so much fun. I would have loved to have been at that show.
I was hoping you were at that show, but you were at other Roseland shows, so that's cool.
So yeah, the basis for our name, the Audio Slave name comes from Audio Slave too. We all come at it from different genres being our favorite. I know Twan's a little more into, the metal and hardcore scene. Nate's a grunge guy with Pearl Jam, and I come from it a little on the softer side, and then some hip hop too. So we're like, they're a super group. We can be a super group. Let's name ourselves after them.
The secret's out there. No.
Yeah.
You spilled the beans.
I saw Audio Slave with Nate too, and I've told that story that I called him and he wouldn't answer, and then he finally answered, and Tom Morello was speaking in the background because he was backstage at the interview with the radio station. I was like, you motherfucker. All right, my number 4, the Flaming Lips. Now, we've talked about the Flaming Lips a ton on this pod. I think this particular show I've mentioned a few times, but not as in-depth as the other two. This was July 3rd, 2010 at the Nativa Festival, Nate. If you remember, we went up to Oxford, Maine at the Oxford Fairgrounds.
Yep.
And saw Soundtribe Sector 9 and then the Flaming Lips. And both of those bands blew my mind. I had never seen either. Soundtribe was just so on point. It was in a field in the middle of summer in Maine. You couldn't get any better. I mean, we've been hanging out watching music all day, and to get that as the nightcap, I was just beside myself with how happy I was. But we had gone with a few friends that worked for the radio station. I remember during the end of the Flaming Lips set, just standing there with my mouth open, watching Do You Realize? And Sean, who used to be on WCYY, which is our alternative radio station here in Southern Maine, just looks at me and goes, this dude's having a good time. I'm like, I can still vividly remember him seeing me being like, wow, he's enjoying himself. Like, this is what it's all about, man. And I'm like, yeah, I love this. This is the only place I want to be right now. And then, I went to go see them a couple more times. We met Wayne a couple of years later, or a year later, in Boston, and just super down to earth, cool guy. And that piece obviously helps. And they put on such an amazing show with the gerbil ball and all that. Go check our social media. There's some video of him going over with my brother and I, but just such an amazing place to be. It was really cool because it was Nativa was the only time it ever happened was 2010. It was a 3-day festival in Oxford, Maine. And there was a Hannaford across the street. So Nate and I just walked across the street and bought another 18-pack when we ran out of beer, and nobody cared. Because it was the first year of the festival and they didn't understand how to handle it. And we were just like, we need more beer. Like, let's go to Hannaford and buy more beer. This is too easy. But man, what a blast. And yeah, Flaming Lips at number 4.
Haven't seen them. They're on my list as well. I've heard great things about their show. One of my friends is when they did the tour with Weezer, she got to see him. She's like, it's totally worth going. They're on my bucket list as with several other artists that I hope to check off at some point. Maybe if they do a big tour with all the other bands that I haven't seen would be wonderful, or a one-off. But yeah, they're awesome. He's definitely an eclectic dude.
Totally.
Yeah, and being in the top 5, it kind of validates it, right? You're like, all right, now I got to check it out for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
But Tone, you kind of broke the cycle though. Like technically a festival appearance, but it counts.
Well, it was one night. I only went to one day.
That's true. It was one. I know the festival was one night only, right? Or was it 2?
Well, no, it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This was the Saturday night. and you and I
okay.
went up on Saturday during the day. And I'm not counting the afternoon session. I'm just the evening session. It was 3 bands. So I can't remember who opened for Sound Tribe, and then it was Sound Tribe, and then Flaming Lips. So I'm counting that as the show because it was a one night off for me. We drove up, then we woke up in the morning and drove home. Yeah. So I'm counting it as one. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's just like, fuck, I have so many festivals too that should make the top 5.
I know. Yeah.
The cheat code.
We down to 3. Ready for 3?
Let's do it.
All right, Brian.
Here's where you're going to turn my microphone off. So I have to lead this off with a disclaimer. My first concert ever was April 7th, 1987 at the Brendan Byrne Arena. And it was David Lee Roth on the Skyscraper tour, and Poison opened for them.
Wow.
So when I talk about hair metal, Poison will always have a special place in my heart. And they actually are my number 3. Now, there's a reason behind it. This was June 17th, 2000 at the PNC Bank Arts Center. It was Poison with Cinderella, Dokken, and Slaughter.
Nice.
We had lawn tickets. One of my ex-girlfriends came over to me and said, hey, my brother just got thrown out. We need to leave here. And she handed my buddy and I 2 tickets. She goes, go enjoy from the second row. Wow. I was like, oh, hell yeah. So we went from the lawn all the way down. And this is one of those hand to God stories. The only person that will know this is my buddy Patsy. So I will have him listen to this and chime in if need be. During Poison's set, they were playing a song and they were bringing people up on stage. And this woman went to jump up on stage. And now at this point, we're up against the bar right in front of the stage. And she started to slip. So I caught her and helped her up so she didn't fall back. Bret Michaels saw that, pointed at me, and called me up on stage.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, man.
So I hopped up on stage and he literally threw his arm around me, said, that was awesome. Thank you, dude. Do you know the words to Rock and Roll All Night? And I said, yes, I do. He handed me a microphone and said, good, I got to go take a piss. And he walked off stage. CeCe DeVille walked over to me and said, I hope you know what you're talking about because you're about to put your money where your mouth is. And he counted Ricky Rocket in and they started playing Rock and Roll All Night. And I turn around and there's 20,000 friggin' people in front of me. And I got to sing the first verse of Rock and Roll All Night. As soon as I was done with that, Bret Michaels started singing. The second verse came and put his arm around me and we sang the friggin' song together. Now, this is in 2000, before camera phones. I have for years looked on YouTube to pray that somebody has this like bootleg or something.
I was going to joke around
wearing
and say I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah, I have this ripped Metallica shirt on with like the sleeves all ripped off. Like I was just a mess, but it was a moment that is so vivid in my memory. My buddy's like, dude, I can't believe you did that. Like, cause we were in a band at the time. So I went back to my buddies and I'm like, man, 20,000 strong. And I got to rock a Kiss song in front of them. And it was one of the coolest experiences. So even though Poison's not a band that I'm sure the 3 of you guys have on your list, how could I not bring that up as a top concert experience? Because things like that just don't happen.
And it's
How
tough
is that not one?
I was gonna say it's tough to top that. Like now I'm like, all right, what the hell did he?
Yeah, what else does he have?
Did Brian drum? Well, is he Brad Wilk? Like, who are you? You know, like what?
Man. Yeah, Brian was in on the Let It Be. He helped the Beatles write Let It Be. Yeah.
Wow. And Brian, just to confirm, you said that was your first show?
No. My first concert was actually David Lee Roth and Poison, April 7th, 1987 at the Brendan Byrne.
Okay.
But because Poison opened, they were the first band I ever saw live. So for the rest of my life, they will always have a hall pass as you talk shit about Poison, because to me, they kind of like broke me into live concerts. Yep, so my 11-year-old mind was blown hearing this loud, music light show. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And it made me obsessed with concerts. So Poison gets a hall pass for the rest of my life as just an awesome band. And people look at me and they go, really? And I'm like, that's got nothing but other than they were my first ever band I saw live.
That leads me to a question for you guys, Anthony and Nate. If you were to have played with the first, if you would have ever been pulled on stage with the first act you ever saw, who would it be?
I think it was Rustic Overtones as a local band. As a national, I think it was Pat Metheny. So it would be a whole different experience. Yeah. Especially with Pat Metheny.
Yeah. Here, play this.
Yeah.
I think it was better than Ezra Patio Show. And I've This is like one of my nerd goals in life is to figure out what year that was. It was either 96 or 97.
I mean, if it was a patio show, we could find that out.
I've tried. I've looked.
Really?
For years.
Oh,
Yep.
man. All right.
Scoured the depths of the dark web for that. No.
I've got an idea. We've got some inns over there. We can figure that out.
Yeah.
Mine would be the Bare Naked Ladies at the Civic Center in Portland.
Nice.
That was a blast. They put on a great show, and Portland is kind of their adopted home. They're Canadian, obviously, but Portland, they got the key to the city in Portland. They played a bunch of patio shows. One of the more memorable WCOI patio shows, which is One City Center, downtown Portland. They have a patio outside the radio station. They would used to do shows there, and they were free. And you just roll in. The band would play 4 or 5 songs, and then they'd play at a venue in town later that night. And this was a pretty cool spot back. I wish they still did that, honestly. But it'd be Bare Naked Ladies for me. So sorry about the tangent, but I wanted to know if we all got pulled on stage. Now that we know Brian got pulled on stage with Poison in front of 20,000, I'm not going to top that.
All right, I'll jump in. 3. The date is November 8th, 2003. So fresh 18. Nerd fact. I like to throw some nerd facts out there. I bought a $600 Sony Hi8 digital video camera. This was like right when digital video cameras were coming out. And the whole thing is they had like a USB input to go into like Adobe Premiere on your computer. I bought one just for this show so I could film it. I was like, I want to remember this because I know it's going to be something special. It's up on YouTube. It's been up on YouTube for 15 years. It's got like 20,000 views across the couple videos, but it's the Receiving End of Sirens last show with their original singer. It was in Fitchburg, Mass. The cap of this room was like probably 400, tiny. This was before they blew up. This was before the Triple Crown signing, before all that. That summer, in like 6 months, I probably saw them 12 times. Like I was driving down from Southern Maine to Western Mass, to Boston, wherever, and I'd see them play because I knew there was something special about that band. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I remember the essence of that night way better because I obviously had a camera, but if you weren't at the show and just seeing the video, I don't think you'd really get it. It was just time and a place had to be there. And that era of that band is just so special to me. But man, $600 as like a broke college kid, like what the fuck was I doing? Like after inflation, that's like probably $2,000 today. Now it's probably like over 1,000.
It was worth all the views on YouTube, though.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it's a claim to fame. Yeah.
Oh, actually, another nerd note. They put out a DVD and used some of the footage. Never hit me up. I want cease and desist. Where are we at?
Jeez.
I can do that for you. Okay. I can be a thorn in someone's side. I'll make a couple burner accounts and yeah.
Great memories though. I go back and watch the footage every now and then.
That's a band that we kind of got robbed of a reunion show in 2020 because of COVID. I know Anthony and I were planning on going down to see them because you got me into them around that time, and I never saw them live because I wasn't driving down to Massachusetts to see them, Western Mass to see them. For me, it was like you said, it was a 3-4 hour drive sometimes, and but awesome band, and be really cool to have checked them out in 2020, but COVID kind of robbed us of that.
Just wanted to kind of riff off your nerd fact just really quick here is, I used to be, I think we all talked about it on here, like don't be that guy videotaping the show, but when you do get a few songs, it's awesome to look back on it, especially for something this special. But now especially, like I've been trying to go to as many shows as possible now that they're back, and I'm taking tons of videos because now I know how fast it can be taken away with the pandemic, and just have it go to a full on stop. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to take as many videos as I can because I don't know if this will happen again. And, life changes, I don't know if I'll be able to go to concerts all the time. So just to kind of relive the videos is a good memento. So I think it's overrated to say like, enjoy the show, but you got to get some content too. So, and we do the podcast, so that's part of it.
All right. Well, I'll give you 3. The aforementioned Tom Petty at the Tweeter Center, which at the time it was called the Tweeter Center. I forget what it's called now, in Norton, Mass, on June 18th, 2005. So a couple years after you said you saw them, Brian. The opener, the Black Crows.
Oh,
so really, really just an awesome bill. Nate missed the Black Crows because he was talking to some people in the parking lot and get kind of tied up, and we couldn't find him. And this was again pre smartphone, so we're calling him, but we couldn't really text him and be like, "Where are you? What are you doing? Do you need help to get out of the situation you found yourself in?" But yeah, he missed the Black Crows, which I'm never gonna let him live down because they were also awesome. But Petty, I mean, I saw Petty twice. This was the first time. We were the night before we had seen Robert Plant and the Strange Sensation in Boston.
Nice.
We've told this story of the pod. We drove from Boston to just outside of Norton, Mass, and found a like a La Quinta or one of those, hotel chains to stay in before the Petty show the next day. And we were starving and nothing was open, but our hotel had a Tombstone pizza maker in the lobby. So with the 6 of us that went to the shows, we cranked that bad boy up, made a couple pizzas, and had a couple rooms next to each other and enjoyed ourselves that eevening, and had a blast at Tom Petty the next day. And there is nothing better than the whole crowd singing Breakdown. It's just it just is so amazing. So
every song, you're literally arm in arm with people you don't know singing Petty. Every Petty show I've been to is always just, and the thing was, there'd be people there that were 15 with their parents, and there'd be guys in their 70s, and everybody was just one age. It was, it was one vibe. Everyone was into it. All people from all different walks of life. Petty crossed so many genres. I literally, his death 4-year anniversary just hit it.
A couple days ago, yeah.
Still impossible that it's been that long. Like, it still hurts to this day.
One of my favorite artists of all time, and grew up listening to the greatest hits anytime I went on a road trip with my dad. So to be able to see him twice, and one time obviously in a huge crowd down outside in Mass, and then one time inside here in Portland, Maine, like 8 rows from the stage, just phenomenal experiences. And you're right, to not be able to do that anymore is such a sad thing. But great concert, great number 3 for me overall. I mean, Petty, I'll never forget that week.
Nate, who you got? 3?
That was a good one. Brought back some good memories. All right. So my top 3, Twan, you were at this one on July 28th, 2007 in New York City on Randall's Island. Rage Against the Machine absolutely destroyed. It's hard to not put them in the top 5 because they're such an amazing band, no matter what, like anytime you see them live. But I think we want to be a little greedy in saying like we saw them in their peak form, but it was 07. So it was kind of after the fact, right? But they just killed, they destroyed. Such a good set list. Open with Testify, close with Killing in the Name, and just song after song, just like kind of like the Tom Petty thing. Like everyone's singing in unison, but it's a totally different vibe at the same time. And I just remember looking at the fences on the side, the perimeter of the outdoor venue, and everything looked like it was just going to fall apart. Like it was a full on like uprising, just based on the music, let alone like political climate or whatever you want to say. But yeah, my top 3, it's just such a memorable show, especially living in New York City at the time. And I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Seeing Rage outdoors, just literally just tearing it down. So yeah, top 3 all day, maybe even higher if it was a different day.
So we make the rules here. I'm going out of order. This is my number 1 show of all time. I was at the show with Nate. It is number 1. They headlined the Rock the Bells Fest. I don't know if you mentioned that, but
Yep.
Wu-Tang, Public Enemy, Cypress Hill, The Roots, Black Star. You got Mos Def and Talib, EPMD, Pharoah Monch. Just incredible. And then you have Rage, Rage is my favorite band of all time. I got into them on Evil Empire in 96. I was like 10 or 11. I don't know what my parents were thinking. I had the tape. I never thought I'd get to see them, ever. So like the fact that came up, it was just unbelievable. And I think about like tonight when I was just finalizing this list, I was like, is anything ever going to top that show? And I don't think it will be, because I don't think I'll ever love a band that much. And I don't think there'll ever be as much suspense. I mean, from the time I got into them to 2007, that's 11 years. And nowadays, in being mid 30s, if I like a band, I'm going to go see them. There won't be an 11-year gap where there's like all this hype, It's like nothing will ever top that. And man, it was at night. It was outside Randall's Island, so you could see like the cityscape in the background. Just time and place that I think about. I have like pictures in my head, like vivid images of that night. I can't like think of video, but I have pictures that like have just stuck in my head. And I would pay arbitrarily $3,000 for the show. Like, I would just throw money to relive that night.
That Rage is in my honorable mention because I saw them. I forgot the year now because I didn't write this one down, but it was Bad Religion, the Beastie Boys, and Rage Against the Machine for a one-night show at at the time it was called the Continental Airlines Arena in New Jersey. And man, it was just insanity from the first song of the night to the end. And they are just incredible live. Absolutely incredible.
I am the only one in here that hasn't seen Rage, so I'm just going to see myself out. It was nice talking to you guys this evening. So jealous of all three of you right now.
Boston Calling 2022.
I know.
If it happens,
Yeah, I hope so, man. That'll be something that I make sure I get to because it just needs to happen. You're 11 years, Twan. My 26, 27 years. Yeah, so I'll have some anticipation for that one.
Yeah. Damn. Got to make it happen.
All right. We up to number 2? We're up to number 2,
roll.
right? Brian, what do you got?
Yep.
All right. This is one of my favorite groups of all time, and this is one that's going to probably make people raise their eyebrows, but I'm going to go with December 16th, 2001, and I'm going to go with Blues Traveler. I could have gone with December 29th, 2014 at the State Theater, New Jersey, because that was my daughter's first concert, and we sat front row, and she got a harmonica, and John Popper wished her, told the crowd that it was her first concert because I had emailed him on Facebook prior to the show.
Amazing.
Telling him that we were going to be there. That one was awesome. June 2nd, 2009 at the Bergen Performing Arts Center, I opened for them. I got to do a 4-song set. That could have been my favorite Blues Traveler show. But December 16th, 2001, 3 months after September 11th, John Popper comes out on stage. The band walks out and he does the Star-Spangled Banner on harmonica.
Wow.
The entire room was bawling their friggin' eyes out.
Wow.
It was just powerful. And the band does this electric 2-hour set. And for the last song of the night, they filled the stage with first responders.
Amazing.
And firemen, and the whole place erupted into a party scene. Like it was like nobody knew at the time. And I don't mean to take this on a downer note. I'll be really quick about this, but we didn't know if it was okay to have fun at that point anymore. We didn't know what to do in New York. It was just and again, this was at the Roseland Ballroom. So we didn't know if it was okay to enjoy ourselves again. And Michael Franti and Spearhead opened, and they were like, look, guys, we can have fun. We can enjoy this. And it was a bunch of the tracks from that night is on Blues Traveler's live album, What You and I Have Been Through, including that version of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Ooh, I'll check that.
Wow.
It's just, I have no words. It was just amazing. Probably the second best concert I've ever been to in my life. It is the second best concert I've ever been to in my life. And it's just for the story around it. That just 3 months after 9/11, hearing that, it was just such a powerful night. And everybody in that room was a family that night. Didn't matter age, color, what team you were a fan of. Giants fans and Jet fans coming together, Yankees and Mets fans. It was just New York, and it was just a perfect night.
And I think what you said, a lot of what you said underscores how important context is. It's like where you were in your life, how old you were, what was going on in the world, where the band was at that stage in the career. It's like so many ingredients that, I don't know. I'll probably have goosebumps though listening to that Star-Spangled Banner rendition.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, he plays it like Hendrix. So I mean, it's awesome from a musical standpoint. But then when you add that context on it, it's just every time I think about that moment, I looked at my buddies that I was with, and our jaws were on the ground. We didn't even know what to say to each other. What did we just see?
Right.
And that's the best part about all of this entire conversation, why we do what we do, and I think why you and Gomez do what you do, is because there's nothing quite like when a song is amazing, when a show is amazing, when you can't recreate that feeling from whole cloth. It needs to be one of those things, one of those organic things that you kind of stumble into. And it's just so, man, I can't do it justice. I love music. I love the music community. I love what the feeling you get from being at a show like that, remembering it, 20 something years later, man, it's
There's
nothing
no
like it.
drug. There is no drug on this earth that you could take that could beat that euphoric feeling when a moment like that happens at a live concert. It's otherworldly. It's out of body experience. It's all of that, all wrapped in one. There's nothing you could take that could top that or recreate it.
Nothing like it.
Totally agree. The only thing that comes close is when you hit the last game of a parlay in sports betting. That is pretty close. But no, I'm with you. It's
honorable mention.
When your team comes back from a 28-3 deficit in the Super Bowl and wins it, that was pretty cool too. I'm not gonna lie. All right.
Oh crap! Let's not talk. Note to self: don't mention you're a Giants fan.
No, I'm going to mention it shortly, so don't worry about it. I've got something for you. All right, who you want me to? I'll go. I can give you my number 2.
Yep.
Go for
Bruce Springsteen at Gillette Stadium, the home of the New England Patriots, August 2nd, 2008. So we're not quite a year, but 6 months, 7 months removed from the Giants beating the Patriots in the Super Bowl in 2008.
I was there, and Tom Petty was the Super Bowl halftime show. So that
no, you had
a
great day. You had a great day, and man, if I were you, that would be one of my favorite days ever. So I understand it. I mean, that's
my whole extended family is from New Hampshire.
Okay,
so the Giants winning twice against New England is all I've got.
Yeah.
Anytime they start to rip on the Giants, I'm just like Eli Manning, and they all just have to stop because it's just like, sorry guys, it's all I've got.
It's the only fan base that I can't really give any grief to.
David Tyree, who?
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, Mario Manningham, same thing.
I said to my entire extended family straight up, I'm like, look, when New England beats the Giants 3 times in the Super Bowl, then you guys regain the bragging rights against me. But for now, I never, ever introduce it. I don't walk in cocky. I only pull it out if I have to play that card.
Yep. Smart. That's the way to play it. That's the way to play it too. We're back. It's August 2nd, 2008. My dad and I are down at Bruce Springsteen. I bought him tickets for his birthday. He had no idea. He was super excited. He'd never seen Bruce Springsteen. Huge fan. Got me, one of the reasons I listen to some of the stuff I listen to still to this day. And he and I get down there and we treated it like a Patriots game. We park in a spot that we typically would park for a game, hang out. We're talking to these people that drove up from New Jersey, huge Giants fans, salt of the earth dudes, super nice, didn't rub too much in that they had just won the Super Bowl over our undefeated Patriots. And I'll never forget just the pre-show stuff, hanging out with those guys, enjoying how excited we all were to go see Bruce Springsteen. And especially where my dad and I had never seen him. And Full E Street Band, Clarence is still alive. Just an amazing show. I've told this story on the podcast before, but that was the only time I've ever been at an event, whether it was a weather event. They put all of us right before Bruce is about to go on. They say, everybody go up underneath the concourse. We got some thunderstorms coming through. It should be about 20, 25 minutes, and then Bruce will come out. And the entire stadium, we were down on the field, moves up and under the concourse, and the place is going nuts at every clap of thunder and every lightning bolt. And the place, everybody's just so excited to be at a concert, and it hasn't even happened yet. And the energy in that building was next level, and it only gets topped by one other show on my list. And man, the happiness my dad had when they played 10th Avenue Freeze Out, just looking at him, seeing how excited he was, I'll never forget that. And that's there's just so many big pieces of that night that I can still see so vividly. And it was 13 years ago. So yeah, Bruce Springsteen at Gillette Stadium in 2008 for me is number 2.
Man, these stories put such a smile on my face. I love hearing it. Like, it doesn't matter who you root for. It doesn't. At the end of the day, music brings us all together. I love hearing this stuff, man.
I agree.
All right, this actually will be my last one because I spilled the beans on the Rock the Bells. So this one actually kind of piggybacks on a theme that you had, Brian, and you just had, Tone, which is the whole experience of the show and who you were with. So this one, I'm going to kind of cheat here because it's not just one show. It's a weekend. So 2 years ago, May of 2019, one of my top 3 bands all time, which I've already mentioned them, Crime in Stereo from Long Island, they did a West Coast run in San Diego, Anaheim, and West Hollywood. It's a band that I've seen back in my early 20s, probably 15 times, but they had been inactive for like 9 years. And then out of the blue, are like, hey, we're from New York. We live on New York, but we're going to do a 3-date run on the West Coast. And me being on the opposite coast, I'm like, I'm in. So I bought tickets, didn't even chat with my wife about it, spilled the beans after.
That's ballsy right there.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm
that's
going.
a baller move right there, buddy.
So before I even talked to my wife, I called my dad, who's closer to 70 than 60. And I'm like, you want to go to the West Coast? Because I've been to a ton of shows with him over the years. Def Leppard, The Outfield. I mean, you name it. We've been to a ton together. He hasn't been to many.
Slipknot. You've seen Slipknot
That's
with
right.
your dad.
And that kind of piggybacks on what I'm going to say is he hadn't been to many of my bands. So he flew out with me. We did this 3-date weekend, small bar in San Diego. Then it was at Chain Reaction, iconic place in Anaheim. And then the Roxy, iconic.
Oh.
And it's funny, like the Roxy was the last show of the weekend. And I remember going in the bathroom and being like, looking around, I'm like, some skeevy shit has gone down in this bathroom. Took a piss and then got out of there. But I think the underscore of this whole thing is it's who you with. It's the whole charade around it, how you got there, making a weekend of it. It was just, we didn't have a car. We just took Ubers and trains and buses. It was amazing. Time and a place I'll never forget.
Oh, that's awesome memories, man. Like hearing stories like that, the bonding, like I've gone to see AC/DC with my father, Tom Petty. And when I took him to AC/DC, that was a band that we would put the record on when I was a kid, and he would just blast Highway to Hell in the house. And I would, I got in trouble in kindergarten for bringing my dad's copy of Highway to Hell into kindergarten, and because they felt
That's
like
amazing.
They felt like If You Want Blood, You've Got It was not an appropriate song for show and tell. But whatever, it was my favorite song. And then when they came out, my dad at 70 years old, he's got his friggin' horns up, and he's like, I better be careful because I could throw out anything at any point here. But he's like, he couldn't help it. He was just like, he had to he was headbanging with all 70,000 people at Giant Stadium for that.
Amazing.
So I totally get that, being able to spend that time with your parents and, take that in. That's a beautiful thing, man. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
One last comment about the San Diego show is there was a guy in the crowd that he was crowd punching. He was getting a little too aggressive, and my dad high-fived him on the way out. I was like, what bizarro universe am I on?
I love it. I love it. Slick, if you're listening, that's amazing.
I remember being like, wow. But, yeah, that's 2. I think, Nate, you're closing us with 2s?
Yeah. Show regret, just quick tangent, show regret, because you actually called me, hey, come down, meet me at the show. And I had just got some kind of super late night where I like rolled into my apartment at like 8 p.m. and you're like, show starts in an hour. I'm like, I got to eat dinner. I can't do it, man.
And I haven't forgiven you.
Show regret.
I've never forgiven you.
I know. I wouldn't forgive me. I don't forgive me.
I'm angry about it. I have nothing to do with it.
All right. So my number 2, this one got put in and out with the same band, actually, because they're such an amazing band. Just saw them in the last 2 weekends. Pearl Jam on November 21st, 2013, here in San Diego. And man, it's hard not to put this at number 1. This was such an amazing show. And for it to be this late in their career, they just killed it. It was such an amazing show. Lengthwise, they played 34 songs. It was just like a marathon show. Anyone that's listening that knows Pearl Jam, they know Eddie's from San Diego, as well as Matt Cameron, the drummer, formerly of Soundgarden. He grew up in San Diego at one point too. So there's some local roots. So they had a lot of family there. Ed's mom was there. We all, as fans, like Ed passed a bottle of wine to us in the crowd, and we slowly passed it all the way to her. So that was kind of like one of those holy shit moments. A bunch of family in the crowd, like I was saying. So he's calling out his brothers, and they're putting the spotlight on all their family members. You're like, I'm here with like one of the biggest bands on the planet and their family. So it's just like really crazy situation. I had also just moved to San Diego, but I had originally moved to Northern California first and sold my Pearl Jam tickets in Oakland, knowing that I was going to be moving down to San Diego because I was in NorCal as a temporary gig. And so I sold them and then bought the San Diego show. And it was literally just such an amazing show. I was like, man, I'm happy I didn't go to the Oakland one and went to the San Diego one, because it was that much more special and long. I mean, literally the show just never stopped. And the reason it didn't stop, little nerd fact, is they played the Vejas Arena, which is part of San Diego State University. And because it's on the campus, they don't have a curfew. They can just play however long they want.
Nice.
And so that's the core reason why they were literally just going, because they didn't have to pay the curfew fine, and they just obviously with the family connection and everything, they were feeling it. Best show, one of the best shows I've ever seen. I want to say it's the best time I've seen Pearl Jam, but that's a tough one because it's the first time I saw them. Anytime you see your first band or your favorite band for the first time, obviously holds a very special place. But first 2013 show, anyone that was there knows that this was just a one-off in terms of memorable show for Pearl Jam. So
I am going to stop
insane.
you. When we saw Pearl Jam in Boston in 2005, they did play 31 songs that night too. So they're no stranger to long sets.
Oh, they played 31
good
that night.
long sets. They're not meandering.
They're amazing. Yeah.
They're Eddie knows how to craft a set list, let me tell you.
Yep. They one of my favorite shows too, probably top 10 for me, is seeing them in Boston with you years ago. And that was one of those trips. We did a Pearl Jam one night and something else in Boston the next night. I think Atmosphere, Modest Yahoo the next night. We just bombed around Boston. So that was a great time too. Probably, 15 years ago at least. So, all right, we're up to number 1. Anthony's already given his. Brian, what do you got?
All right, back to the Roseland Ballroom one last time, but this is November 24th, 1998.
Ooh.
Now, I could have went with November 23rd, 1999, because this band did a one-off show at Madison Square Garden with a full symphony orchestra. That would be Metallica for their S&M show, but I'm going with their Garage Inc. cover songs only show that aired on MTV. And my cousin and I were in the crowd. We made it on MTV cameras 2 or 3 times, throwing up the horns. I mean, this is friggin' Metallica in less than 2,000 people. I'm not old enough to have been able to see them back when they were opening for Raven, back in like the Kill 'Em All days when they were young and hungry. Metallica was already a stadium band at this point. So to be able to snag tickets, I went on and waited online for 4.5 hours at a record store in North Jersey and was the first person in line. And I ended up literally, I got the tickets. The guy behind me didn't get them. My cousin and I basically got to see Metallica in front of 2,000 people. You just can't top that. It was just surreal the whole night. My cousin and I friggin' moshing the Metallica because they did all covers. So it was Last Caress, Sabbath Bloody, or Sabracadabra. They had a Metallica cover band open for them. It was just a fun, different experience. And I've seen Metallica so many times, but it's always in a stadium where they're this big. We got all the way up to the bar and they're friggin' right in front of us. And it was just something that I would never experience again. So that's my number 1. Metallica Roseland Ballroom, November 24th, 1998.
That is an amazing
That's amazing.
show. Yeah. That small of a room, especially where they're at in their career at that point. I mean, they are already iconic and there's still 20 something years left to get to today. So that's, oh man, I can't even imagine. That's so cool.
I love when Green Day, like bands like Green Day, when they play a stadium, but then they'll go do a club show for 500 people. That always makes me happy because you're giving something back to the fans. Like when they do pop-up shows, Metallica just played a club last week. I want to say in Chicago, they did a pop-up show.
That's right. They did.
And they did a bunch of stuff off like Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. Like that's just doing something awesome for the fans. I love stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, it's just the rareness of it. I mean, there were only 2,000 other people there in human existence that were in that room to experience that. And they probably never did that again, right?
No, they've never once done a show where they didn't play a single Metallica song. They had a cover band do it.
Wow. Yeah.
So
and the best part was the cover band lead singer had really long hair, and James Hetfield walked out and grabbed his hair at the end of their set, and Lars walked out with hedge clippers, and the whole place went nuts. They didn't do it, but the look on the singer's face was just like,
damn.
As someone who had long hair at one point, not too long ago, it takes a long time for it to grow out. So yeah, somebody rolls up with hedge clippers. You're like, bro, get away from me. This took 3 years to happen. Like, leave me alone.
That's hilarious about the long hair thing too, because that was like the whole controversy with Metallica at the time, right? Because Jerry Cantrell wrote on his acoustic guitar at the Alice in Chains Unplugged show, like friends don't let friends cut others' hair or something like that, because all the guys Metallica had just cut their hair in '98.
Thumbing there, this is Metallica kind of clapping back a little bit. It was just fun. Like, and then when MTV went off the air, James is going, "Are we still on? Are we still on? No, we're not on anymore. Are you sure? Are you sure? This is your last warning. Yeah. Are you sure?" good. I got something to say. And the whole place was just like, so they did Last Caress, So What, all the
Nice.
friggin' filthy, Metallica songs that they wouldn't do for MTV. And it was just, man, I'm hyped up right now. I'm ready to start moshing in my office here now.
Me too. I mean, 10:30 on the East Coast, 10:30 p.m. and I'm ready to run through a brick wall.
Yeah.
All right, Nate, what do you got? Number one.
My number one was on May 26th, 2005. Amazing show. Was U2 at the Fleet Center. Actually still says it on the ticket stub. Obviously it was back then. It says Fleet Center, not TD Bank North, not all that shit. Fleet Center. So it's old school. Yeah, this one holds a special place. I was pretty young. I'd never seen U2. I've heard great things. Saw tons of stuff on YouTube and had DVDs and whatnot on the band. But to finally see them play, and I was actually floor too, so I just couldn't believe it. But the whole crowd singing every song to every word to every song. It was the Vertigo tour, so they're just in peak form. They always are, right? I mean, the U2, they're just such a tight band, but I feel like they were on a pretty high wavelength at this time. They'd just come off the Elevation album and tour and everything around that. So this was just kind of riding that lightning onto a second album cycle. And it just holds a very special place. I think we've talked about it on here before. It was very real. It was a religious experience for me. I was just in another world. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, basically. It was like, this is insane. The sound, everything about the show is just riveting. So, yeah, it'll always be my number one. I always try to replace it, but I can't because it's just, I relive it all the time when I look at the stub. I'm like, I know exactly every minute of every hour of that whole day. So, Tone's holding something up similar too.
I am holding up the ticket stub. It does say Fleet Center on it. It is U2 on the Vertigo tour. May 26, 2005. Also my number one show of all time, Nate.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh, very cool. We got a crossover here. I like that.
Yeah, we finally got there. We've had some of the same artists, but we have not had a similar show, the same show. So Nate and I, we weren't at the show together, but we were at the same show. You went down with a mutual friend of ours. I went down with my neighbor. I accidentally bought 2 tickets, or somehow bought 2 tickets. Ticketmaster had this happen to me a couple times. I bought one, it went through, and then they sent me 2 and charged me twice. I was like, okay, cool. I have 2 tickets. They weren't together, sadly, so I didn't get to sit with my my friend Caitlin. But I think the second row from the top, as far away as you could be, really, without being not in the building. And it was the best show I've ever been to. I had 2 old ladies standing next to me. We were hugging. We were singing every word. We were having the time of our lives. I wish I knew who their names. I wish I could reach out to them today, 16 years later, and talk to them because of how amazing this night was. I had never seen the band. I grew up with the band. They're never a favorite band of mine, but I mean, they were U2. They were always around, especially in this time. And to see those songs in that room with a group of people that Boston is, if it's not Irish, I don't know what it is. And I'm a little bit Irish, but barely. And they're so into that band. It's like they should be from there. Every time they come through, they play 2 or 3 shows in Boston because of how well the crowd does there and how big. I've seen them there twice. Once way up top, which was the best show I've ever seen. And then I would say another top 10 show is them again. And we were down on the floor, but backstage beforehand seeing Joe Elliott of Def Leppard and all that stuff. And that was really cool, but nothing beats the first time. It was just, like Nate said, a religious experience. It was the people I was around that I didn't know. It was the entire building, 18,000 strong, being one entity for, an hour and a half, hour and 45 minute set. It'll never be topped. I hope to top it. I feel like I'm young enough that it could be, but I'm not sure it will be. It was just so damn amazing. So I'm with you, Nate. Number one show of all time.
I'm going to guess it'll never get topped because you've put it on such a high pedestal. And think of all the shows. Exactly. All the shows you've been to up to this point, hundreds and hundreds. Man, it'd have to be a special band. The venue would have to be right. It just, it'd be tough to crack my list at this point. Although, a couple of these are pretty recent.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep damn trying, though, until the day I drop.
Totally.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, yes. That's the beauty of it. Even if it doesn't make your top 5, even if it's your top 20, it's still awesome. Because I've been to so many concerts. Even to crack the top 20 is a religious experience at this point.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's a great point. And the sad thing is, we just haven't been able to do it much the last couple of years. I mean, last show I went to, actually it was 311 with you guys, but before that, it was almost 2 years, you know?
Wow. Yep.
My last one was Sons of Apollo, about 3 weeks before the pandemic kicked in.
Wow. So you haven't been to one since the pandemic started? Wow.
No, sadly not, but I'm looking to remedy that very soon. There's so many good ones coming around. It's just been, it just hasn't happened yet.
Yep. Yeah, and I saw Clutch last night, and it was my first time back in the State Theater, which we talked about a little earlier. You saw Mo, and we've talked about the State Theater at nauseum. We had the promoter Lauren Wayne on episode with 52 with us, so we love that room. It's such a great room to finally be back in there after almost 2 years. I was pretty emotional walking through the door. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I missed this place. I've been in here so many times, and to see a band I love and be back in a crowd, whether it be a smaller crowd, and maybe I'm a little more careful around being around somebody for too long, but it was great. Everybody was into the show, and man, it was fun to be back doing that. And these are the reasons why we want to try to get into the top 5 with the next one.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
All right, Brian, where can we find you? Where can we find Playlist Wars?
Playlist Wars is available on any of the podcast streaming platforms that you use: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere you find podcasts. We are on Facebook at Playlist Wars. We are on Twitter at Playlist Wars. We are on Instagram at Playlist Wars Podcast or playlistwarspodcast.com. We've got all our shows. If you listen and you like what you hear and you want to vote for which one of the playlists you like the best, you do it all there. It's kind of the main hub. We just love talking music. So if you find us through Patio Slave, just let us know, man. We're all about just making friends and talking music with people. And I'm so thankful that you guys had me on tonight. This was such a blast. And I hope to be able to do it you guys again soon, having each one of you is on for a Playlist Wars episode down the road. And then I can't wait to, hopefully I didn't annoy you guys too much with my rambling. And hopefully I can come back sometime and chat with you guys again. This has been an absolute blast.
The pleasure was ours, and you don't ramble any more than Nate does, so we're fine.
Oh, I know. I ramble all day. We should do that. We should do a top 5 festivals.
We could do that. Yeah, you guys can do that. I haven't been to enough, but yes, that could totally happen. We look forward to getting on at the Playlist Wars with Brian and Gomez here in the near future. Keep an eye out for that. But hey, if you've listened to us tonight because you like Brian, thanks. And we got a bunch of different stuff back there, so go check it out. Go check out Playlist Wars. If you're, Patio Slave fans, podheads, go be a playlister. It's fun. I am one, so it's a good time. You guys will like it too. Thank you, Brian, for coming on with us tonight.
Absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me. And obviously, we'll be telling everybody to check you guys out. We've been saying this since day one. There's a million podcasts out there, but the fact that we have this kind of community of podcasts on Twitter, there's plenty of time to listen to all of these amazing shows. I listen to all, like X Radio X, She Will Rock You, Patio Slave, The Itch. Like these are all awesome shows. I just love the fact that we're all like this music community, talking music and just enjoying each other's company. So again, thank you for having me on.
Hell yeah.
It's been a blast. And hey, to close this out, in the spirit of Playlist Wars, this was Concert Wars. Let us know whose lineup you'd like to see.
Yeah.
Ooh,
we'll post
I like
them.
that.
And it won't be mine, so you go for it.
You never know, man. I mean, some of the episodes we've tossed out there, that crowd loves to support that music. So you'll be fine. But yeah, check us out. We'll toss that stuff up there, and if you like it, tell us which one you like the best. Why not? Right? We don't have the website to do that just yet, but you could tell us on Twitter. You could tell us on Instagram because you'll see it there.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it so much.
Likewise.
Peace, podheads.